Welcome to our €23,000 Italian lake house.
This isn't just a creative project. This is our only home. It's a race against the cold, and we are running out of time. Finishing before winter comes is a necessity. We thought we were buying a house. We bought a challenge. We've run out of budget, so now we're doing what we can with what we have. I hope we haven't bitten off more than we can chew. My name's Kristina. I have recently moved to Italy with my husband to renovate our €23,000 Italian lake house. And here are some of the questions that you guys have been asking me. One of the questions we get a lot is how we live here, what our visas are. So I'm quite lucky in that my husband has Polish citizenship. So because he's an EU citizen, we can live and work quite easily in the EU. The next question is, where are we located? We are on Lago di Iseo. It's in the north of Italy. If you know Lake Como and Lake Garda, we're sort of in between, about an hour and a half outside of Milan. When will your house be finished? I have had so many ETAs in my mind since we started this, and I've been wrong every time. So I've become hesitant to say, oh, I think we're going to be done by this day, because I've been proven wrong so many times. If I'm forced to say one, I would say we are optimistic that we can get in by this fall. All of the structural, hard, dirty work is done now, and we're getting to a point where things are getting more exciting. We can choose flooring, we can choose bathroom fixtures, things that are kind of easier to do and don't take as long as we've got the funds to do it. So we're trying to finish this house before next winter so that we can actually move in and live inside. We have reached the end of our budget, so from this point on, we're doing what we can with what we have. Missing that winter deadline would mean having to spend another brutal winter in my sister-in-law's apartment with no heating system and an outhouse for a bathroom. ETA, move-in date, fall of 2026. How did you both work up the courage to take such a large leap of faith to move there? For us, we have sort of a different backstory to your average person moving to Italy. We didn't actually move here from the United States, or my husband's from England. We actually met while living in Vietnam, and then we lived in the UAE for a few years, and then now we're here. So for us, this was sort of the most comfortable move we've made. So yeah, if you want to hear the whole story, go ahead and check out this video where we explain sort of how we found this place and how we met and how we ended up here. Do I think I would have renovated on my own if I was single? No. Not because it can't be done, but just because I wouldn't feel comfortable. It's not something I have any kind of background knowledge about, and it's not something I'm confident I'd be good at learning. So the reason we took on a renovation project is because my husband has experience in this, and that gave me the confidence to say yes. This person's asking if we have ever been featured on a television series for renovation. Not yet. We have been contacted multiple times by different casting agents who were interested in having us on those, Renovate Abroad series. Unfortunately, nothing's ever come through. We have filmed quite a few casting tapes for different casting agents for different series. Unfortunately, we've not made it onto any of them. The only time we were given a reason was we were told that our property wasn't grandiose enough, and they were hoping to feature someone who had a palazzo or a French chateau, for example, but that's just not in our budget. So we're hopeful. We're not necessarily trying to be famous, but when you are on those shows, it does come with financial reward, which we could obviously use. Favorite unexpected discovery while renovating. We actually found a hidden window, which we did not know was there. I don't even know if the previous owner knew it was there. It was sort of drywalled over. When we had to remove all the plaster from the walls, the builders noticed that there was this kind of archway, which was very clear it had previously been a window. Our architect and engineer weighed in, and they said it's probably dates that part of the house to the medieval period. So that was really cool because we don't really know how old our house is. It's definitely older than modern Italian records. So yeah, that was a really cool discovery to kind of figure out how old part of our house might be. And we did get permission to keep that window, so that was another exciting discovery. How did you find the house, and what platform did we use, or would we recommend? I can't remember if we used Idealista or Immobiliare, but those are the two most popular property websites in Italy. So it's idealista.it or immobiliare.it. You can search by region, by price range, and that's how we found ours. Setting up utilities. This is a very good question because people, myself included, kind of assume it's easy. And it can be, but it's not always. In our situation, it was not because of the way Italian utilities work. If the house already had utilities in the past, the easiest way to get them turned on and in your name is to have a previous bill from the old owner, which would have like the account number and everything. If you don't have that piece of information, it can be very difficult. I know one of my friends spent like 6 months trying to get her gas turned on because she didn't have a bill from the previous owner. We luckily were not planning to live there, so we had lots of time to get them turned on because we weren't living there during the renovation phase. We're not living there now during the renovation phase. So we do have them set up, but definitely something to think about in advance. If you're buying a house, make sure you ask if you can get a copy of previous bills. I know you're doing a lot on your own. Is the cost of trades high? Yes. Of course, this is going to be regional, so in the south of Italy, it's going to be a lot cheaper than in the north of Italy, but we were paying because we hired out for the roof and the floor and a lot of the structural stuff, and we chose not the cheapest guy, but not the most expensive guy, and that was 35 euros per hour per laborer. So if you imagine there's, 2, 3, 4, 5 guys there all day, every day, that adds up quickly. And we noticed on the invoices that was by far our largest expense, which is why we eventually made the decision to have my husband do all of the manual labor after we ran out of money. Do we both speak fluent Italian? No. We are learning. Our comprehension is stronger than our ability to produce. I speak Spanish. I was a fluent Spanish speaker back home. That has helped a lot with comprehension because Italian and Spanish are very similar. They share a lot of same words, same roots, and a lot of similar grammar rules. My husband's foreign language is Polish, which is completely different, so it's been a lot harder for him. So we're not fluent yet, but we can get by, we can hold conversations. I do still occasionally need to whip out Google Translate, but not always. Anda says, I don't speak Italian. How hard is everything? It's not easy. It depends on where you live in Italy. In the region we live in, there are not a lot of English speakers, and it's not very common for people to have a high level of English, so it's a great place to learn Italian, and we've been learning a lot. Any regrets? I am not somebody who typically lives with regrets. I think of everything as sort of maybe a valuable lesson that was learned, so I wouldn't say I regret anything. We're very happy with our lives here. However, if I was to give advice to you, if you are considering buying a house, a fixer-upper, try to find one that doesn't need a new roof, because that was by far the biggest expense and the biggest sort of hassle renovation-wise. So if you can find a fixer-upper that doesn't need a new roof straight away, I would recommend you do that. If you want to see the video of our ongoing renovation, check out the link in our description. Is this house your home or a holiday house? Very good question. This is our home. We moved to Italy full-time in the summer of 2023, and this is where we plan to be for the long term. We're both wanderlusters. We'll definitely get itchy feet again and want to go spend some time somewhere else, but this will forever be our base. This is the only home we plan on having. This is a very good question. Did we consider access when we bought the property? No, we did not. And I think the person who asked this has maybe seen some of our videos on other platforms about how difficult it was for the construction workers to get access to our property. We absolutely did not think about that at all. We found a house within our budget in a location we loved and pulled the trigger. But it's definitely something you should consider if you're looking at buying a house here, because the harder it is to access the house, the more expensive it's going to be to renovate. We have a very narrow road. I don't even know if I should call it a road. It's somewhere between an alley and a road that leads up to our house, so a big construction truck can't get in. We did have to knock down this sort of half wall that was in front of the courtyard that was owned by our neighbor in order to get the construction truck access to our house. So that was added cost. Thankfully they agreed to have us knock it down on the condition that we would rebuild it, but that was an extra, I think, 7,000 euros that, would have been nice not to spend. So definitely think about access if you're looking at buying a house. What is one thing you dreamed of moving to Italy that you've accomplished? I love that question. I'd say building community and starting to build meaningful relationships with people that we don't share a first language with. So we're not fluent in Italian yet, but we are able to communicate, and it's been really beautiful getting to know our neighbors, feeling like we're part of a community that cares about one another, and yeah, that's definitely what I'm most happy about. When searching for houses, opening bank accounts, did you have to hire a translator? We did not, but that's because we have friends who are bilingual. So quite a few of our local friends also speak English, and they've been so generous and so helpful anytime we had needed some help. We're now at the space where we wouldn't need to hire a translator unless it was something really technical. But at the beginning, we did lean on our friends a lot. So we did get lucky there. I think if we didn't know anybody who was bilingual, we probably would have had to have hired someone. Where are you guys finding the contractors? So we have hired an architect, which definitely recommend to anybody who is renovating in Italy and does not know the local rules and regulations. We have a fabulous architect, Enrico, and he has handled all of that for us. Him and his family have been in this business for a long time in the region, so he had all of the contacts. He knew who the best contractors would be, and he sourced all of that for us. If you're not doing a complete gut renovation like us, where you have to do a lot of structural work, you can also, instead of, if you don't want to hire an architect, you can hire something called a geometra, which is sort of not quite an architect, below an architect. So they can't do everything an architect can do, but they can do a lot. So helping you get permissions from the local municipality, for example, sourcing contractors. I would recommend that if you have more of a lighter renovation, but if you have something heavy like us, I would get an architect. What about giving up friends at home and finding new friends in Italy? I've lived abroad for a long time. I've lived abroad since 2013. And it's hard. It is hard when you leave a community that you love and know for the unknown, but you just kind of find your place, and we have here, and we did in previous places we've lived. We've been really lucky. I'd say Italians in general are very warm, very friendly, very welcoming, so this has been probably the easiest place for us to make friends, and we haven't been lonely since we got here. Why is Lake Iseo your forever home compared to all of the places you visited? That's a good question. We have traveled extensively to roughly 40 countries together, but this is the only place we've decided to buy and put down roots, and there's no real reason other than we just completely fell in love with it. If you come and visit, I think you'll understand too. It's just so breathtaking. The landscape is beautiful, but also the people are so warm. The food is amazing. It's sort of everything I've ever wanted in a lifestyle exists here on this lake. And it's also an authentic experience. I think if we had moved somewhere like Lake Como or Lake Garda, which is a bit more known, a bit more sort of on the beaten path, which has a lot more foreigners living there, we wouldn't have gotten the experience we've had here, which is being some of the only foreigners around and really having to learn Italian. And so I think living in a smaller place like this that's a bit more off the beaten path, where there aren't as many foreigners around, has allowed us to have a more authentic experience and has kind of forced us to integrate and assimilate in a way that we wouldn't have had to if we lived somewhere like Florence, for example. Should I quit my job and move to Lombardy? I would say yes, but being realistic, if you have to work, if you're not a retiree, you don't have passive income, you're not a digital nomad, that is a really important consideration, because finding good work in Italy is hard, and even harder if you don't speak the language. We're really lucky in that the kind of work we do is easy to find where we live, that we're English teachers. But if we were in a different industry, I think it would have been a lot harder. So if you can find the work, it's a great place to live. If you can't find the work, it's a wonderful place to holiday. How's the weather? Better than Chicago, worse than Vietnam, is what I always say. So we have 4 seasons, which is something that I missed when we were living in the Middle East and when we were living in Vietnam. But they are milder than what I'm used to in Chicago, which is nice. So in the winter, it gets around freezing. It doesn't snow on the lake, but it does snow in the mountains, so you can drive 20, 30 minutes to find some snow. Summers are hot and beautiful, great for swimming, enjoying the beach. And then the springs and the autumns are lovely, a little wet, especially the spring gets really rainy. But yeah, I'd say it's 4 seasons, but a mild 4 seasons. This is a good question. What's the vibe like in the Iseo region during winter? So I know a lot of people who look at holiday destinations make the assumption that, it must be really busy in the summer and then there's nothing to do in the winter. And I think that's probably true of places that depend more heavily on tourism for their local economy. But here, this is just a normal place where normal people live. Yes, it does get busy in the summer. Yes, it is, especially a domestic tourist hub, but it doesn't die in the winter. The bars and the restaurants are still open. The shopping centers are still open. A small handful of places might do limited hours, but for the most part, it doesn't really change as far as what you have access to. And then we're super close to the mountains as well. So yeah, it definitely doesn't empty out in the winter. And actually on the contrary, because we're so close to the mountains, you have a completely different set of options of things you can do in the winter, like skiing, snowboarding, other winter sports. How much are you saving by doing DIY? A lot. I don't know that I could give you a figure because I don't know what we would have been paying, how many hours it would have taken a professional to do the things that we're doing. But labor was the biggest part of every single invoice that we were paying when we hired contractors. And you kind of can't predict how many hours, right? A contractor will give you a sort of ballpark of, oh, I think it's going to cost about this, but then they run into an unforeseen issue and it ends up taking twice as long, which ends up increasing your bill. So, I mean, thousands upon thousands upon thousands of euros for sure, a very significant chunk. If Paul wasn't up for doing this, if he didn't feel confident to do it himself, we absolutely would not have the money to finish this house. This is a question about paying taxes in Italy. So we are both freelancers on what's called a partita IVA, which is sort of like being I don't know what the equivalent would be, maybe like a personal individual LLC. And I pay a flat fixed rate of tax for 5 years. I'm part of a program called Forfettaria. You pay a lower rate for your first 5 years. So I pay about 26% in total on all of my earnings and taxes. After my 5 years, that's going to go up to by about 10%, I believe. But for now, it's a flat rate of 26%. People always talk about how, oh, Italy has really high taxes, really high taxes. I'm like, it doesn't really.
That is like a cheat code.
Yeah, okay. Do you teach in a private school, a public school, and how do you find the work? We work in public schools. There's lots of different ways to teach English in Italy. There are language centers, which are much lower paid. That's the lowest pay you can get. Generally speaking, it's kind of your starter job. I don't know many people that do that for a living long term. If you are a qualified teacher in the States or in the UK, you can work in international schools here, which is a much better rate of pay. If you have higher degrees, more advanced degrees, you can work at universities. We do freelancing, which is something I didn't know about until we moved here. So English is a core subject across all Italian schools, from primary school through high school. And students are taught English as one of their core subjects by a local Italian teacher. However, each school will get some kind of budget at some point in the school year to hire in someone like us, someone who's a native-speaking English teacher, to come in and help with pronunciation and speaking. These contracts are generally between 6 to 10 weeks, and we kind of just come in and get to be the fun teachers. We come in and focus on speaking, pronunciation, and building confidence. We apply to these through something called a bando, which is basically a public call for teachers. So you kind of just have to keep your eyes out to see when these public calls go out and apply for them. It's not the most stable way to work because, like I said, they're short-term contracts and you've kind of got to try to line them up throughout the year to make sure you stay fed, right? But for us, it's been the easiest way to make enough money because they are higher paid than your language center. And once you kind of know enough people within the school system, it becomes a lot easier to get these contracts. Before I forget, and before we say goodbye, if you're dreaming of doing exactly what we're doing and you want to buy a property here in Italy, every month we send out a special newsletter with a curated selection of properties for sale under 100K. Some are fixer-uppers, while others are move-in ready. To get access, you can join us over on Patreon for just $5 a month. You'll also get early access to every video and all the behind the scenes of our journey. Your support literally helps us finish our home. If you want to hear more about our story and our renovation project, we post about it on all platforms. And if you want to be notified about future renovation updates and other projects we're working on, subscribe to our YouTube. And if you have any more questions about our life here in Italy, leave a comment below.